Hello and welcome to Further Inside with Leoni. My name is Erick Light. I'm the artistic director of Leoni Men's Choir, and I am so honored to have as a guest with me today Jason Max Ferdinand, who is the conductor of the Aeolians, one of just, I think, the best groups out there. Welcome, Jason.
Well, thank you so much. It's very humbling to be here.
Oh, it's I'm just I'm just so excited to be able to talk with you because we haven't before, and also to share your music with I think a bunch of folks from this part of the neck of the woods that maybe haven't heard your music and heard what you're all about. We'll get to a whole bunch, and we've gotten to a whole bunch of things in the live stream. We'll get to, but I want to dig right into the meat, all the tough questions.
Okay.
I just had a remarkable experience this week being on a panel for Chorus America, talking about intentionality and responsiveness in choral work. And one of the things that came up in that panel was the idea of a choral identity. And just kind of like laying out what at least kind of what I'm thinking here, and I really want to hear what you have to say. A choral identity can come from a number of different things. Some of it can be the repertoire, it can be your geography, it can be the people in your choir, all of those sorts of things, and then maybe first and foremost the values with which you do your work as a choir. I am really curious as to your own take on your work. What is the choral identity of the Aeolians?
Great question. Well, the Aeolians are based at Oakwood University, and that in itself has certain attachments to it. Number one, Oakwood is a Seventh-day Adventist school. It's part of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, and that brings a clear identity to the people who attend there and to the values that we teach, not just musically, just overall. That's one. I think two, Oakwood being a historically Black college and university, or as we call it, a HBCU, gives it a very, very strong identity as well. And I think thirdly, and these are no particular order, I think thirdly, Oakwood has prided itself, not in an arrogant way, but just prided itself in the musical water here. Back in the 80s, they used to say, you could pick any four guys and you have a quartet immediately, because it seems like everyone who comes to Oakwood, part of the admission requirements was being able to sing.
That's SATs, yeah.
Right.
And please sight read this, yeah.
Right. So, those values, they are held very highly here, and it continues to this day. So even now in my choir, I have kids who are second and third generation Aeolians. Their parents sang the group, their grandparents sang the group. So they come wanting to be part of that tradition. You put all those people in a room and you have a strong identity there because they grow up hearing the old recordings. They grow up hearing their parents talk about it and sing about it. Those three things there, I think, for me, kind of ties everything together for us here locally. And then in more recent years, I'm realizing when we step out from Oakwood, there's some other things that are now developing that has, identities that have been placed on us, or identities that we've had to kind of now adapt to kind of fit into the whole melee of the choral world. But I think those three things.
Can you give some examples on that last part? Because I think that's really interesting.
Well, so for example, we are all Black choir. And for some people, that can be interpreted into one thing. Oh, this choir will be really great at singing spirituals, or this choir will be really great at singing gospel. And those labels get put on you. So we've had to very skillfully try to say, hey, we can sing those things, but we can also sing the regular choral world stuff. And that for me was a huge thing. And the journey to the National ACDA was a direct lesson for us in that, and hopefully the audience received it the way we planned it, which was to say, hey, we can sing pretty much anything we put our heads to.
And you actually kind of skipped ahead to one of my questions. I think when we have an identity, and my feeling is that all of the great choirs have a strong identity, and it's kind of all of those things that we're talking about. It's some of those things that are wrapped up outside of the rehearsal room, of like where our singers come from, and for your school and your faith, that are major parts of what you have. But when you're a part of an identity, I think there's maybe things that we can do as the directors on a day-to-day basis or in our programming that either maybe validate that identity or maybe expand that identity. And you've certainly talked about that expansion of what that means. How do you navigate that?
Well, first of all, if you put you have to kind of wear some things loosely, as I call it, because navigating it could be very burdensome if you don't, take it on the right way. So I navigated by, trying to do a few things at a time. For example, when I came to Oakwood 12 years ago now, I knew that the journey of choral tone, to kind of fit into the bigger choral world, was going to be something we'd have to kind of slowly shift and change. And then repertoire, and some of the HBCUs, that label of, they only sing gospel and spirituals really well, that's, how should I say this, politically correct. It has some credence in some places, so I had to make intentional steps in singing a lot of different repertoire. I think I said that right without hurting anyone's feelings.
I think you did that was really good.
So I have to say, hey, we have to sing a broader repertoire. Singing a broader repertoire will now encourage us to expand the tone palette. And so that was a 12-year journey of really taking things one at a time. So in 2017 was the first time I said, you know what, I think I want to take the choir now to Wales, the world competition, because it took that long when I could finally say, okay, I think we could now go out and do what we expected to do.
That's a large ship to start turning a direction, and when you have that much history, which is always a positive, well, it can be a positive, but that's a big ship to turn. And I understand with the taking of time.
I know you had alumni that would say, why do it sound like this now? You get that kind of flack, but I think now everyone realizes what we're trying to do. So they realize now we can shift just depending on where we are, who we're singing for at any given time. So it's kind of increased our toolkit, and we're able to go in all kind of different directions.
Mm-hmm. So two things. One is it sounds like this was really your vision and your decision when you came into this job. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Then the second thing is you can have that vision all day long, but you have to get your singers to buy into it.
Right.
The high school kids that are going to come to your college. You need to get your alumni. You need to get the rest of the college. How do you bring those folks onto a change of vision? And I say this because I think you've done so brilliantly and in a really remarkable way. But I think about the high school teacher who takes over a legacy program.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they see things when they take that job, they're like, how do I take what's good here and move it? How did you do that?
Yeah, the first thing you have to tell yourself, you have to be fearless. you have to have your clear ideologies and be bold in making them. And again, not in an arrogant way, but just to say, hey, there are a couple of different ways we can do this. So one, having no fear. Two, I really just try to let my work speak for me. So the biggest part was just trying to set up the system within my choral program. All right. And as you said, the singers had to kind of buy in. And that for me was pretty easy, at least for them mentally saying, okay, we see what you're doing. Let's go for it. Now the technical stuff that took some time, but I realize students now, once they hear something two different ways, and it's, oh wait, that's how we sound when we do it this way. We don't like that, so not going to use that. So once they saw it for themselves, it was an easy sell. Now, when it comes to the alumni and you know, the different demographics, like I said, we just try to let the work speak for us. So, and for us, you know, I have to say this very carefully too. Oakwood and the Seventh-day Adventist Church, when I came here, everyone was like, no, we have a great choir. And my argument was, but no one else knows that. You know, it was very insular. So part of my strategy was to take the choir outside of that small circle and then, you know, go to World Choir Games 2012, go to Choir of the World 2017, World Choir Games 2018. And all of a sudden, once those entities started saying, oh, wow, the aliens really are a good choir, it kind of lessened the arguments from the alumni to say, okay, what was he doing? Now they say, now we see what he was trying to do. So, you know, right now we don't get any flack or any arguments about those things. So it was just being very strategic in how you sold them onto new things.
Right. And that's and would you have a maybe a hierarchy of like, you do this for, like, is there an order to that operation in your mind?
Yeah. There's an order for me, but I mean, you know, I think orders are totally different. So order for you in your situation, you have to assess it and say, okay, I think in this situation, I need this first, this first, this first. But I had an order, I think, and the first thing was some of the musical things. Like I said, the tone was pretty, you know, we had one distinct sound and just trying to expand that. So that was my first order in-house business. And once I felt comfortable, then we started taking on some of the outside of the circle things. So that was the second part of the big phase. And now really, you know, just trying to maintain that standard and expanding on it. Even right now, I'm having some thoughts about choral things and how to change things, hopefully for the better. So we'll see.
Right. And I would assume that with, you know, let's call it the turning of the ship, one of the key ways that rudder gets turned is through the repertoire. Yes.
Yeah.
Was, in your opinion, you're just like, okay, here's some Monteverdi, deal with it. And, you know, like what? Yeah. You know, do you know, like sometimes you have to set that meal in front of singers, and then they start to realize, like, oh, I like this music, but I want to sing it better. How is that maybe chicken and egg thing for you in terms of the repertoire?
Yeah. So let me answer it this way. The students at Oakwood, I love them so much because they can be an open book they love challenges. Let me say that first. They love a challenge. Okay. So as a teacher, though, without telling them, I'm building certain skills so that when I do get to something, they have the skills to do it. So let me go in backwards. And I tell people this all the time. For National ACDA, you know, we did some Bach. That was the first time our choir did any Bach. Ever. Right. And people look at me like, are you serious? Yeah, I'm dead serious. But by the time I exposed it to them, they had the tools to deal with it. And then that process from August till we got to the convention in February, I mean, they dove right in. They loved it. That was probably one of their favorite pieces on the program. They loved the challenge. And they loved hearing that people didn't expect them to sing that. I think that really got them going. They're like, what? Like, okay.
And that's what that's what I want to ask you about as well. So I conduct a men's choir. With that comes a lot of times in people's mind, if we show up, let's say we have a public performance someplace and no one's ever seen us before, and they see, oh, geez, 60 dudes in tuxes. What the hell is this going to be? And a lot of times the way that I try to win them over is to sing something very soft and very tender, because here's this expectation. Yeah. And then you kind of come in from around the outside, right? And you blow people's minds and open their hearts because it's not what they expected.
Right.
And you just said it. People didn't expect you to sing Bach there. That's a horrible indictment, I think, in many ways. But I think it's also, we all have, again, our choral identities are what they are. If you're the St. Olaf Choir, you're going to get.
That's my 1-year-old saying.
Hi. Future singer?
This is probably a programming thing you never had to deal with before.
No, this is great. Well, hi, who's this?
What's your name? Jamie.
You are adorable. And I think this has already been the best episode we've ever had because certainly I've never been.
Come on.
All right, good night, Jamie. See you, right?
Good night.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, Jamie. See you later.
Oh, my heart. Oh. Okay. Well, now we know what's really important in the world. None of this choral business. But I guess I was trying to say that, we all have our expectations, and certainly a choir coming from a historically Black college has those. So where do you lean into that? Where do you come from around the outside? What is that navigation like for you?
Programming, right? I mean, I spent a lot of brain energy on that ACDA program. I'm using that as an example since it's kind of out there. But, just trying to find the things that I knew my choir would enjoy and do well, and also the things that people didn't expect us to do. So it was with intent that we did not do like a Jubilee showstopper spiritual. That was very intentional. So instead, we went the opposite way with a soft, quiet Dawson, My Lord, with our morning. Because we didn't want, here they come with. And it's so funny because one of my dear friends told me when the choir was walking out at National ACD, there was a lady next to him who we didn't know. And she said, oh, man, I can't wait to hear their spirituals. And he looked at her and said, and this friend of mine is Caucasian. And he looked at her and said, well, I can't wait to hear their Bach. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I'm sure she wasn't the only one in the room. So that program was kind of carved in a way to kind of quell that expectation, but to show like, wow, they really just try to do it all and hopefully did it well.
And that's probably what we have time for is probably one more question along this line. And you use the word that intentionality. And my feeling is always when we say yes to something artistically, and a lot of times that's repertoire choices, we're also saying no to like like almost an infinite number of things, right? And artistic choice is that really narrow yes, that really narrow path. Certainly that ACDA program was so broad and so varied. But when you are being intentional, are there some let's say it's not just an ACDA thing, and that's kind of your coming out party, or whatever you want to look at that. But just let's say a regular program that you're putting together, are there some values that go into it when you're maybe not trying to make the statement, but this has got to be like, this is who I am as a conductor, as an artist, this is who the Aeolians are. What's that for you?
Well, the Aeolians are, my kids love to be very clear on their messages. So I'm trying not to use the word theme because we don't do themed concerts that much, but I think we like to send clear messages of hope and love and optimism and treating people with equality and that sort of thing. They are very, very, very vocal about those things and try to impart that whenever they sing. Now, the one thing I love about the Aeolians too, we sing for such a very demographic, especially the last 5 years or so. So we have our typical, what I call church concerts. And then all of a sudden now we do a lot of concert hall gigs, Alice Stevens Hall.
Are those different for you? Is that?
Very different. Very different. And I think that's the thing I love about it. So the church concerts, You know, we could kind of go off script and do this, but we also very intentional about giving to that demographic stuff they wouldn't typically hear. And once we sing it great, they love it. I mean, people, you know, we as artists have this thing of giving them what they want to hear, but I think we also need to give them stuff they don't even know they need to hear. So yeah, so those concerts are so different than, say, we go to something more formal and we try to be very, you know, very structured. But again, just both of them though are clear messages, clear message. So yeah.
And you can, I assume, walk in both of those worlds with both of those feeling like Aeolians concerts. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And my kids kind of coined this word, instead of calling it concerts, they've called it experiences now, which kind of gets you into their minds and where they are. You know, they just want to impart an experience for whoever the audience is. Let's take them on a journey.
Oh man, I could talk to you for like days, and I can't. I want to thank you so much for joining in and being part of this little love fest that we've been creating online over COVID here. It's been a real blessing to me, and getting to talk to folks like you, especially you. I just feel really honored. So
very humbled, really.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.